Well, gang, it's time for another weekly haul video. What comic books I bought at my local store and why I bought them. As you can see, it wasn't that big a haul this week, so I actually spent about $20 of my budget diving into the dollar boxes. So if your favorite book is not here, you know it came out last week and you don't see it, well, you may wonder, which dollar book did I decide I wanted more than your favorite book? And then there's something else I got this week, this 14-inch Mego Batman action figure. And I had this sitting on my desk, and it was freaking me out, and I couldn't figure out why. And finally it dawned on me, it's that right there. Do you see it? A giant bat bulge? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So stick around. It's going to be a good video. Because I'm Batman. And I have a big penis. Ha ha ha. I'm Batman. Hey there, Bubby. Welcome to Shanghai. My name is Duke, and this is, of course, another weekly haul video. As I mentioned, this is just a quick video on why I bought what I bought at my local comic book store. The idea being that, maybe whatever industry pros might happen upon this video can glean some understanding of why fans buy what they buy, why they pass on other things, because I've been buying comic books for a long, long time. I figure if I'm thinking something about the industry, odds are I'm not the only one. And then, of course, the other reason to do these videos is to foster a dialogue between myself and you, my fellow comic book fan. If there's a book that came out this past week and it's not here, well then please, sound off in the comments below. I've only done like 50 videos so far and only maybe like a half dozen of these weekly haul videos, but I have already added to my weekly pull list, or my monthly pull list, I should say, my order at my local comic book store, books that have been recommended by viewers of this channel. So who knows, maybe you could turn somebody on to your favorite book and help boost the circulation of that title. So let's get right into it. We are going to save the fairly lengthy discussion on Batwang until later in the video. But stay tuned, because not only are we going to talk about that, but I'm going to let you know why it is that superheroes, well, if not anymore, at least used to wear their underwear on the outside. It's got a lot to do with what you're looking at. So stick around. We will get to that. Anyway, at the local shop, which for me is .com Comics and Collectibles in Freeport, Maine. And oh yes, please like, share, subscribe, do all the groovy things if you like this video. If you hate this video, that's fine. Give it a thumbs down. Leave nasty comments. This is only the 50th video I've done, so still looking for some traction with that YouTube algorithm. First thing I got here, Bill and Ted Are Doomed. And the main reason I bought into this, I haven't seen the movie yet, because I am not paying $20 to rent a movie. There's just no way in 100 hells that is ever going to happen. The industry is going to have to come up with a better model if it wants me on the digital train. But I mostly bought this because Evan Dorkin, and Evan's not doing the art, but the artwork in here is quite charming. So I haven't actually read this yet, or I haven't read the first issue yet. This is number 2 of, I believe it's 4. But I am looking forward to reading those. Hawkman, this is the penultimate issue of this title. It ends with number 29. Which is too bad, because for my money, Hawkman has been the very best book that DC has been publishing. Really, what they should have done is got behind this book with a little bit of marketing, a little bit of promotion. It deserved a wider readership, but instead they've just gone ahead and canceled it. Hopefully writer Robert Venditti will end up somewhere. I'd like to see him on the Superman books. That's probably not going to happen. Those books are probably going to end up going to Mark Waid, which means I'm probably not going to be buying them. But anyway, if you haven't been buying Hawkman, well, you can probably get the back issues. There are some trades. Coloring's a little dark here, but that's typical of all comics these days. But this has been a very, very good book. All right, Savage Dragon. Well, I buy Savage Dragon. I don't actually read Savage Dragon, or at least I haven't been. I've got a co-worker who is probably the single greatest Savage Dragon fan of all time, and he has been talking me into buying this, insisting I give it a try. I think it was around 242 was when I came on, and those books have been piling up, and I haven't actually got around to reading them yet. I did pass on 250. I just couldn't pay $10 for a book I'm not even reading, that I'm really only buying just as a kindness to a coworker. And you've probably seen, Sean, if you've seen any of the unboxing videos on the Sell My Comic Books channel, or at least the older ones from back maybe a month or so ago. The owner's been doing them by himself lately, but before that, you saw Sean on the video quite a bit. Anyway, Sean, he insisted that I try Savage Dragon, and I've been doing it, and I should get him to reciprocate. I should make him buy my favorite book, which is and is not the Legion of Superheroes. I would normally make him buy Legion because I'm buying Savage Dragon, but I just can't do that to anybody. I wouldn't let my dog pee on the Legion of Superheroes right now. Or actually, I guess maybe more properly, I would. More correctly, yes. I would say please do use that. This particular issue, though, looks like it's a kind of a pastiche, a play on different comic strips in the style of all of these different strips. And so this one might be fun. This might be the one that I actually end up reading. And maybe I'll go back and read all those other ones that I have. So, anyway. And then the last two books that I got are kind of cheats. They are the True Believers. These are reprints of previously published material. These are only $1 each. And I've spoken in past videos my theory on these True Believers and why shops should be really stocking up on them. As far as I know, the only ones my shop got are the ones that I pre-ordered. This one is a reprint of Amazing Adventures #1 from back in the 70s. It's got Black Widow in there, and there's Inhumans. Oh no, I guess there is no Inhumans in here. It's got the Inhumans on the cover, but it looks like it is just reprinting the Black Widow stories from the first couple of issues. Isn't that interesting? I wonder why they left it with the original cover without having any actual Inhumans in it. That would probably confuse a lot of modern readers, I might think. But anyway, if you ever find this run of Amazing Adventures in the back issues, it's worth getting. A lot of the Inhuman stories have Neil Adams art, and a lot of the Black Widow stories have some very, very sumptuous, very sensual Gene Colan art. And then the other one is this issue of Amazing Spider-Man. This is a reprint of issue, I'm going to shank on it, 96, I think. And it's the issue where Black Widow got her classic. See, this is what she used to wear when she first appeared in Tales of Suspense. Hope you can see that. I got more Drew kind of in my way. I don't want to knock him over. He'll get pissed. But this is where she first donned the kind of Diana Riggs catsuit that you are probably more familiar with from the Marvel movies. We've probably got a nice splash panel of it somewhere. Maybe not. Yeah, today that would be like a full double-page spread of her putting on that costume. But back then, story was more important, and you had all these panels and all these words, and the money shot was, just part of the narrative. So, the silly ways they used to do comic books as things you would actually read. Okay, so beyond that, and we've got our dollar books here that I mentioned. Beyond that, Rorschach #1 also came out this week. I did not put that on my pre-order. I hemmed and hawed and flipped and flopped and prevaricated and equivocated. Finally decided not to put it on my pre-order list. I figure, well, I'll check it out on the stands when it comes out. Well, the DC Comics come out on Tuesday. Well, they're officially put on the stands on Tuesday. I didn't get into the shop until Thursday, and by then everything the shop had was gone. Now, my local store, coming out of COVID, has been kind of cutting back on its orders a little bit. And of course, you order based on your pre-orders. That gives you sort of a barometer by which to order your inventory so that you don't get stuck with too much unsold product. And according to Dan, the Smiling Funny Book Man, the fella who runs .com Comics, he said he only had 2 pre-orders for Rorschach #1, so he ordered 9 issues. And it seems that his theory and mine, I agree with him, is a lot of people are cutting back on their pull list, waiting to buy stuff on the stands. And it's probably because, a lot of people, like myself, got really stuck, with COVID. They pre-ordered stuff a couple of months in advance, and some of that stuff still hasn't come out yet. And people really don't know what's going to happen, so they're kind of taking it month to month. They're not really jumping all in on the pre-order. So anyway, Dan said he only had 2 pre-orders, ordered just 9 books, and by the time I got there on Thursday, they were all sold out. So he's going to do a reorder. I will get a Rorschach here eventually, probably in a couple of weeks, hopefully, if UCS comes through. And maybe with any announcement that DC is going to drop UCS and go with just Lunar. That news coming out just today as I film this on Monday, the whatever today is. I have to look it up. The 19th. Maybe, UCS will end up showing even less interest in doing the whole distribution thing kind of in a serviceable manner. So maybe I won't get that Rorschach. I don't know. But anyway, like I said, that Rorschach aside, there wasn't much on the stands that I personally had any interest in that I had not pre-ordered. Excuse me for bumping the stand there. So I took a deep dive into the dollar box at .com Comics. Bought a lot of stuff from kind of my golden age is that late 70s, 77 to 82 or so. And these are all books, some small press books mostly, or smaller press than Marvel and DC from the 82, 3, 4 period. And that was kind of a, I don't want to call it a golden age, but certainly it was the first big push of the independents in the direct market when you had First, Eclipse, AC, a lot of different companies coming out, publishing stuff directly to the comic book stores. And so, I decided I wanted some of this more than I wanted anything that came out new this week. And so let's just go over. I'll show you some of what I got here. There's Americomics #1 from AC Comics. Alien Worlds. This is issue #2 from Pacific Comics. If you don't know, Pacific was a distributor out west, kind of like, a Diamond or a Lunar or a UCS. And they decided to get into the publishing game. Published a lot of early material by some prominent artists, including Dave Stevens. So here's a Dave Stevens cover. They also did a lot of Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko. The Rocketeer first appeared in a Pacific comic, I believe. Gru the Wanderer first appeared in a Pacific comic. But it's a good company to try and get their entire history, because it's probably not more than 100 books that they ever published. Oh, and I'll show you some of the inside of this one as well. So here you go. See what you think of that. Black Diamond. Sybil Danning is Black Diamond. I don't know if Sybil Danning was a real person, but whoever did this cover is mostly real. She might be augmented to a certain degree. I don't know if that's Sybil Danning or not. It says Bill Black did the art here, and Bill Black is the publisher of AC Comics, but that looks very Paul Gulacy to me. So, I don't know. Darklon the Mystic, also from PC Comics, and that was a one-shot, or at least only one issue of it came out. I don't know if it was intended to have more. Edge of Chaos. I have no idea what this was about. It just, again, just trying to get all the PC comics, the Pacific comics that there ever were. So I couldn't resist grabbing these out of the dollar box since they're in pretty good condition. All of these books are probably a good, 7 or 8 anyway. But this was a 3-issue series. So, and I don't know if it was canceled after 3 issues or if it was intended to be a 3-issue series. But here's some of what's going on inside there. And this book looks like it says Flamingo, but it's actually titled Jerry Iger's Famous Features. So that's pretty sick. Sorry, that's my phone. That's my ringtone. The Electric Company theme. And it looks like it's a spam call, so we're going to ignore that. I don't know anybody in Hayward, California. If you are, in fact, watching right now and you're from Hayward, California and trying to call me, I just ignored your call. John Sable Freelance from First Comics. I have been recently trying to complete this series. There were 56 issues, so there is number 20, number 21, number 23. And this was a Mike Grell series. 39 and 41. Like I said, some of these, coming out of the dollar box, they've got some dents and dings. They're not near mint by any means. But still, I mean, if you like Mike Grell, this was a pretty cool series. And then this one I screwed up on because just like I'm trying to get all of the Pacific comics, I've also been trying to get all of the Red Circle Archie adventure comics from the early to mid 80s. And this was kind of a halfway. This was a halfway between the Red Circle superheroes and the Archie adventure series. This was a 4-issue series, and actually I screwed up. I already have this book. So I bought a book I already have. So I'll have to compare, see if this is any better condition than the one I have. So if you want a Mantech Robot Warriors #1, let me know in the comments. Maybe we can do a deal. Here is another AC comic. This is Night Vale, and Night Vale was AC's revamping of Phantom Lady. You know Phantom Lady maybe as a DC character. Well, she was originally Quality Comics, and apparently the copyrights on those characters that DC bought from Quality, when it bought out Quality in 1956, I think, it didn't renew them. And so these characters are actually in the public domain, and that is why, it was back in, 2013, 14, 15, DC put out a bunch of new versions of some of those characters. Dollman, the Human Bomb, there was a new Phantom Lady, there was a new Ray, and that was just to trademark the character names with new characters, because apparently the original characters fell into the public domain. So anyway, AC Comics revived Phantom Lady, got into a little trouble with DC, decided to just change her name to Night Vale. But if they'd stuck with it, they probably could have won that fight. Eclipse Comics, Scorpio Rose. There were only 2 issues of this, and I got them both. Hoo-ha! Yay me. And there's some of what's going on in there. Again, for $1, these are some damn fine deals. Because these are in plenty, they're not, 9.4s, but they're 8s, 7.5, 8, 8.5. They're in plenty collectible condition and a lot more readable than a lot of new comics. This one looks like it says Time Force, but the title of it is actually Bold Adventure. And apparently there were 3 issues of this, so I managed to get #1. And then I also got some issues of DC's Weird Western, featuring the Scalp Hunter. 39, 48, 49, and 50. And let's get more Drew right out of the way so I can show you this awesome 14-inch Batman Mego action figure. And, I loved Mego action figures as a kid, and I've told you about losing them all in a house fire in 1980. And never really replaced them. But I've recently been kind of buying some Megos. And this is a new Mego. Mego was, out of business for decades and has recently come back. And they do the 8-inch action figures. This one's a little bigger. But I bought it because I was having a crappy day. The other day I bought these books. And so I bought myself a present. And so, it was still a crappy day, but it was a crappy day with presents. So that improved things moderately. But I had this sitting on my desk at work, and it took me a while to figure out why it was freaking me out, and it was because of this giant bat bulge here. And it's like, what on earth is that all about? Why would they even do that? And it's funny, the store had a Superman, a Batman, and an Aquaman all in this 14-inch size. Superman and Batman both had these giant bulges. Aquaman, smooth as a dolphin's back. I don't know why or what that's supposed to say about Jason Momoa, but anyway, so it got me to thinking maybe we could discuss, as I try and fix this character, try and discuss why it is that superheroes used to wear their underwear on the outside. And of course, Batman doesn't anymore, and Superman didn't for a while because it got to be passé, just like, thought balloons and narrative captions in comic books. Oh, that's so quaint and old-fashioned and passé, and we need to modernize. And I'm gonna try and fix this while I'm talking to you here. But the question is, why did superheroes wear their underwear on the outside? And if you look it up online, a lot of places will attribute the reason to longtime DC editor Julius Schwartz. And that's all just like clickbait. Like, they try and make it out to be this thing that nobody knew, and it finally fell on Julie to reveal the answer. Well, it's an answer was readily known. Hell, I knew it as a child in the 70s. I mean, it was just duh. Who wouldn't figure this out? But why did Batman wear his underwear on the outside? I'm not having very much luck cutting this. Why did Batman wear his underwear on the outside? Well, obviously, reason one is because Superman did it. Superman is kind of the granddaddy of them all. The first superhero came out about a year or so before Batman. Superman had his underwear on the outside, and so obviously that is why then Batman had his underwear on the outside. Well, okay, why did Superman wear his underwear on the outside? Well, and that's because earlier adventure heroes, namely, because Superman came out in 1938, and Flash Gordon in the comic strips by Alex Raymond started in 1934, and he wore underwear on the outside. And then the Phantom by Lee Falk, which started in the comic strips in 1936, he wore his underwear on the outside. And so, Superman is a startlingly original character, which is also an amalgamation of everything that came before. And so certainly Joe Shuster in the design kind of, swiped from things that had come before. And so because Flash Gordon and the Phantom both wore their underwear on the outside, that was how Joe designed it. And of course, being the prototypical primordial super geeks, sci-fi and comic strip fans, boy, I'm doing a really bad job of this. Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel, the creators of Superman, they would have been very familiar with Flash Gordon and the Phantom. And so the question comes, well, okay, so Batman wore his underwear on the outside because Superman did, and Superman did it because Flash Gordon and the Phantom did. Well, wait, why did they do it? And that is because circus performers did it. The strongmen and the aerialists in the circuses, they wore kind of their underwear on the outside. And the circus, was big 19th century and early 20th century entertainment. It was, this isn't gonna work at all. I thought I had a good idea, but I'm kind of screwing this up. So anyway, I think you can figure out what it is I'm trying to do. And a seamstress, I'm not. Especially with these dull-ass scissors. So what was I even attempting to say? Uh, okay. So the circus was big entertainment. It started kind of the early start of the Victorian era, and as the trains came along and linked America, it became a big thing. And it was kind of without much else in the way of entertainment options, the circus was kind of the Netflix of its day. And actually, to continue that metaphor, that allegory, that whatever word I'm trying to say, I'm having a Bertie Wooster moment. My brain can only focus on one thing at a time here, and it's really intent on cutting these. So this video sucks. Anyway, the circus was, like I said, the kind of the Netflix of its day. But as P.T. Barnum and the Bailey brothers and the Ringling brothers kind of all sort of ended up combining over time, it sort of became the Disney of its day, if you will. And so everybody knew the circus. Everybody, around 1938, when Superman was created, every kid would have been familiar with the circus, would have had Toby Tyler dreams of running off and joining the circus. And so they would have been familiar with, you wouldn't, today, it's like you see somebody with their underwear on the outside and it looks strange, and of course you think of a superhero, but back then, that was just standard adventure togs. And that's what you would wear if you were a strong man or an aerialist. You would wear something like that. You would wear, tights and then something around your waist. So the question then becomes, well, why did aerialists and strongmen, why did they do that? And a big reason is because this guy didn't. Here's Henry VIII with his big old codpiece. And so standards change. Just as the ideal of feminine beauty, the pendulum is swung from Rubenesque to heroin chic. For men, it's swung from, Greek statues with their teeny tiny little penises to to things today you see on the internet that are not that. So, and in the medieval times, of course, accentuating the manhood with a codpiece was de rigueur, as it were. But by Victorian times, the mood had shifted a little bit. And I don't want to go too intersexual feminist on you here, but it's not unfair to say that the mindset of the time through the 19th century and into the early 20th century, women were thought of as mostly adult children. They could not control themselves, could not control their passions. They had to be kept in check. They would lose their minds at the slightest sexual provocation. And so what circus performers wore was basically an anti-codpiece. It was a modesty diaper, if you will. And it was basically to hide, well, you can look at it two ways. You could say it was to hide the manhood, which would otherwise be very evident in a pair of tights, and not at all appropriate for women and children to see at the circus. Or you could say, this is dumb. I'm just trying to fix it is all. So it would have been appropriate for that, and so they another way of looking at it is a man who had a virgin bride probably didn't want his wife to see what the circus performers had on display. Didn't want to suffer by comparison, and then of course there's really there's just a modesty on the part of the performers who don't really want their junk hanging out. So they would wear something around their waist, so that the tights didn't put it on display. And there you go. By the way, I have now fixed Batman. That is what Batman is supposed to look like. And now I don't have to look at his junk all day. Uh, but anyway, so they would, and so this is what Julie Schwartz said, was that, yeah, the costume was based on the circus performers. And again, times having changed from when you wore a codpiece and tried to accentuate it. By the 19th century, you tried to hide it because, again, you couldn't have, you know, the circus performer would wear the tights for ease of mobility as he's flying through the air or performing feats of strength, but you couldn't have the woman seeing that because, again, it would not have been appropriate. And the feeling at the time is that the women would not have been able to control themselves, which is also partly why Greek statues had such small penises. So anyway, wish I could get those up a little higher. It looks kind of dumb. Like, just being able to see the suit between that and the belt is dumb. That's the only part about that that's dumb. I have completely lost my train of thought. Anyway, that's what it comes down to. The fabric was basically, and it would generally be loose and bunched up so that it would sort of hide what the tights would otherwise have made very evident. So that's the reason. And it was usually a different color than the tights. You could say for creative contrast, but also, let's be honest, because sex sells, and just as a low cut dress gives you the idea, the cleavage gives you the idea of the breasts without actually being able to see them. The different colored diaper, if you will, draws the attention there because it's a different color than the tights that you're wearing above and below. Without you actually being able to see anything, you can only the women could only imagine what was there and would only be able to really compare it to what they knew their husbands had. So anyway, that is why superheroes wore their underwear on the outside. It was, as I said earlier, essentially an anti-cod piece. It was a modesty diaper. It was a way to not have yourself on complete and total display as you ran around performing feats of strength and aerial stunts in the tights that you needed to be able to do that, to have that freedom of movement. And it does make less sense now today when you have, different kinds of costumes, and Batman is usually portrayed in some kind of an armor. That doesn't make sense. It does still kind of make sense for Superman. And if nothing else, you can say, well, that was just a fashion on Krypton, That's what it all comes down to. So, anyway, like I said, I have fixed my Batman. And I hope you enjoyed that story. If you didn't know already why superheroes wore their underwear on the outside, now you know. Otherwise, until next time, assuming there even is a next time after this, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other. I'm Batman.